Thank you for joining the second session of Network and Cloud Security SASE Pro course. So today we are going to cover more of the advanced capabilities of the cyber gateway. So last time we got an intro about cyber gateway, and the focus was more on the firewall rules like the web security, geofencing, port forwarding, and the detailed firewall rules. And today's focus is more advanced topics. And I think you know everyone here. And those advanced topics are around network segmentation, SD-WAN, VLANs, intrusion, detection and prevention, and so on. So this is what we plan to cover today. This is the big picture. I think you have seen this, and our focus for this training, today's training, is modern workplace security. So it's the cyber gateway that goes on your sites. Not only at sites, it replaces firewall. It replaces firewalls in the data center and in the public cloud as well. Right. So more focus on the cyber gateway serving the modern workplace security use case. And if we look, I think we saw this earlier. So where the legacy is, like generally what you have is you have some Wi-Fi access points, some switches at a location, and then sometimes you may have a router like a layer 3 switch, like a VLAN switch, and so on. And then you have a firewall, you have SD-WAN, and you have your ISP, right? And with the modernization, Cyber Gateway will replace almost like these three boxes. With Cyber Gateway, the only thing you need is the Wi-Fi access points and some layer 2 switching. Cyber Gateway takes care of all the capabilities of the full firewall, layer 3 switch, and SD-WAN, and so on. And that's what, I mean, last time we were more focused on the firewall. This time more SD-WAN and VLANs and those capabilities we will learn about. And when Cyber Gateway replaces all these, particularly at a location or at a data center or public cloud, how you deploy it. Like last time we saw the example, Umanath deploying that in a virtual machine. Yes, you can deploy Cyber Gateway in a virtual machine like Hyper-V, VMware, KVM, Proxmox, or any public cloud. Like it just works on any underlying platform and virtual machine. But if you are deploying at a office for SMB and there's nothing, like there's no Hyper-V server, there's nothing else, and now you are replacing the firewall, in some cases SD-WAN and layer 3, you need some compute platform. Like so XCM Cyber Gateway also runs on any compute platform. From that I means is it can be AMD 64 processor or like the Intel type of processor, or it can be ARM processors. Like so we are giving some examples of these hardwares here. So it can go on as small as $70 hardware, which has 2 times 2.5 gigabits per second. This is more than many SMBs need, right? So one of the advantage of the Cyber Gateway is it is compute host or compute platform agnostic. So it will run on any underlying compute hardware. Yeah, almost. Like there may be some exceptions, but all ARM and AMD and so on. So now let's look at, so we just said, yeah, and then there's another detail about the Cyber Gateway, because it serves two main use cases. One is the firewall replacement on the right side, as we said, in offices, data centers, and public cloud. And that's what we are going to cover today. Like firewalls are very expensive, difficult to manage, even in public cloud. Like we got Azure firewall for like 3 days, and per day cost was the same as like a 1 month licensing for the Cyber Gateway. So we are talking about, it's not the orders of magnitude a difference in the cost. And it also serves the zero trust remote access. So sometimes you see the single interface, multi-interface, you wonder, and I think this picture hopefully clarifies that. So we have remote users, we have the cyber mesh, and we have two examples of sites. Like this is a data center, and I deploy a single interface gateway here. So what can I do with that? my remote users with zero trust controls in the mesh can now access resources over here in the data center. And it can be public cloud or anything else. Like I just need a single interface gateway. Its goal is just to create a tunnel to the mesh because remote users are coming to the mesh, all policies get applied over here. But if I'm now replacing a firewall, this is not enough. Like I need a multi-interface gateway, like the LAN, WAN, clear separation. So this will do firewall, SD-WAN, and all that. Like for this training purpose, we are looking at multi-interface gateway. Multi-interface also provides remote access. Like if this user needs to print something at this office location on a printer over here, I think this is the printer, they can still do it. And one more thing for site to site, like so that's also because you see this one-way arrow with the single interface. You can come into this location with the single interface, but if you start something here, you cannot you can get out, but you will get out to the internet. You are not going to come to the mesh. To make site-to-site work, both site gateways needs to be multi-interface gateways. Like that's the SD-WAN, like because site-to-site is SD-WAN. That means you need multi-interface gateways. So this is a good reference for you to get that perspective. Now we can go to our portal. We can start over here. This is my workspace. I go in there. Let's go to the cyber gateways. And the last time, just a quick recap, we did like all web categories. We did the geo controls, all the threat fields. We looked at the firewall rules, port forwarding, and the web filter and other things like that. That is the last session. If you missed that, you can watch the video. And today, let's look at the topics that are for today, the advanced topics. What I'm going to do is maybe just to add a gateway. I mean, quickly, I can call it a, say, SASE Pro, and you can give it a location name. I'm in Dallas. I'm just going to give it this name. And even email, I can select my own email because it's going to send me the instructions. I want a multi-interface gateway. And now we can go one by one. So let's start with the high availability. When you are here, you will see I can enable high availability because now you are replacing firewall and SD-WAN. This needs to be reliable. Like, so what if the hardware fails? What happens? Like, not in all cases, but many of your customers may have that type of requirement. Like, even though it's one in maybe 100,000 probability, but still you need to provide that. So how high availability works. So let's look at this example. You will need two boxes in that case. And let's not look on the right side. And you need a switch. Basically, with the high availability, you give a default gateway is a floating IP between these two. Like, and each one is checking through the switch that if the other one is alive or not. If, for example, primary dies, secondary takes over. And nothing changes for the devices. They don't even know that the failover happened because their default gateway was that floating IP that now the secondary picked up. Like, so this will work. So with the high availability deployment, you just need two gateways, right? And even though I'm showing two ISPs, I think we will come back to the SD-WAN. But if there's a single ISP, now there is two WANs from these two gateways going out. So you need some type of switch where you plug in these two cables and then the ISP modem plugs into the same switch so that same single ISP is accessible from both boxes because when it fails over to the secondary should be able to connect to the ISP and so on. So this is a quick on high availability. And if I do it, yes, let's do it. You will see I'll have two deployment scripts, like one from the primary and one for the secondary. Now let's look at the LAN. So LAN, I can do that, and I can also let's go. What is LAN? So there's a difference between LAN and VLAN. So let's see what is that difference like. The LAN really means that you need to come on a different physical port. Like, so the ETH0 and ETH1 are two different physical ports. Like LAN A comes on ETH0 and your LAN B comes on ETH1. Like with the VLANs, because those are virtual LANs, you can create as many, you can create actually like more than 4,000 VLANs if you like on a single physical port. So that we will see next. And same for WAN. If you want SD-WAN, you need more than one WAN, and you need to have more than one physical port over here. Like if you are doing that, of course, you can also do the WAN with VLANs, but generally on the WAN side, you have these different physical ports. Like in this case, they can go to these two ISPs. And with high availability, we are going to come back how that is going to work. So now let's look at, there may be cases where you have multiple LANs, like, and then you just add as many LANs. Of course, you need to select a different interface over here, like for each one and so on. And the DSCP server you can activate for one, or you all the ranges and everything you can see, you can configure those things over here. Now VLAN, next is VLAN. Let's look at the VLANs, how VLANs are different. Like I said, with VLANs, you can bring as many VLANs. Of course, your switch needs to support VLANs. I mean, these days, even $35 switch supports VLANs. So there's no issue with that, right? And so imagine you want to segment your network. Like you have maybe a guest Wi-Fi. You don't want just the guest coming in, be able to access your corporate IT infrastructure or maybe IoT. You need to segregate on a different VLAN. So they can be different LANs as well, as we have seen. Like then you have to have physically separate them, but you can separate them virtually with VLANs. Like you can create this network segmentation. So these different colors means now I can put in policies in the cyber gateway, say, okay, this blue VLAN can talk to green or not, right? So this is at the high level VLANs, and you will see now if I say VLANs, yes, I can create multiple VLANs, as many as I want. Similarly, I can run DSCP server with the ranges I want, right? And then I say inter VLAN communication, yes. Like that means each VLAN can talk to the other VLANs, or I can say no, right? Or even with this one, I can see which other VLANs it can talk to, like because you can be granular now. Even you say, okay, maybe let's say, again look at this picture. You may say, okay, this blue can only talk to green, but this yellow can talk to both green and blue, right? So those are those detailed policies, so that you will see their details are there, because the focus of this training, when you are going to take the exam, all these links will be there. You have to go through these documents. So I think some of the questions will be a little deeper. So you have these documents with the more details for your reference. So this is about VLANs. Now let's look at SD-WAN. So before I come back over here, let's look at what SD-WAN is. You have seen it's the same picture. That means you have more than one WAN. So this is again for reliability. What if you have AT&T and Comcast, Comcast fails, or you have a 5G wireless is your WAN 2, your landline ISP fails, and you fail over. And you can do very smart routing between these two. We will go through those policies, but at the high level, that is the idea. Like you, so with the SD-WAN, there are two main things. One is just the multiple ISP support for reliability. One goes down, you move to the other one. Other is really smart traffic routing. You can configure rules like your teams or time sensitive traffic goes this way, like so that you may put all the sensitive traffic on one WAN and everything else on the other. So if somebody's doing heavy downloads, that will not affect your team's performance and so on. So that's the idea with SD-WAN at the high level. Now let's make things a little bit interesting. So we saw high availability, and that means if the box fails, you fail over. ISP failover is more SD-WAN. Let's combine these two. You have a sensitive customer, say it's a bank or I mean some critical customer. They cannot afford either failing ISP or failing the box. So this is the configuration. It may look a little complicated, but if you understand this, everything is going to be very easy because this is the the failover across ISPs and the hardware. Right. So for simplicity, we are putting a LAN switch. You have many LANs and you have two WANs. They are coming through a switch. Right. Now you can see you can cross anything. I can cross ISP1, things will still work. I can cross gateway 1, things will still work. Like among these four things, you can cross uh, any one of these things, it will still work. And you can also cross one gateway and one ISP, that will also work. The only thing that will not work is if both ISPs are down and both boxes die, right? Yeah, then it will not, right? But all the cases will be covered, right? And we can take an example of a case, for example, let's see where ISP2 fails and the primary gateway fails, right? Primary gateway fails, secondary takes over. Your devices don't know that, like that just happens. They are just because they got a DSCP address from the gateway. Gateway already gave them the gateway address, which is the floating IP, and a secondary claimed that floating IP, all the traffic is coming to it. And through this switch, I said, I think WAN 2 failed, and then it gets routed to the WAN 1 ISP, right? So two things failed simultaneously, but your users will not notice. Like from notice, I mean, they're not going to have like minutes of disruption, maybe in seconds, like the switch over is pretty fast, but it may be small glitch they will experience. So this is how the SD-WAN and high availability together provides a robust solution. So the cyber gateway, since it is replacing your firewall, SD-WAN, it supports these type of failovers across hardware, across virtual machines, and across the ISPs, like making it a very robust and powerful solution. So now let's look at the SD-WAN. Like, so you can, if it's a single ISP, very simple. You can be a static IP or you can be a dynamic and so on. Let's add another uh, ISP over here. I think, okay, first I needed to do yes, and then my primary WAN. This can be a public IP or private IP and the gateway with the static. If I make it dynamic, it's getting from DSCP, then I don't need to enter anything, right? But assuming I have these two ISPs, I select those. And then I can be failover, which is a simple thing. If WAN 1 fails, it will fail over to WAN 2. But I want to make things a little bit more interesting. Like I say, okay, a load balance. Now I can say 27% of the traffic goes over WAN 1 and then 73 goes over the second WAN. Yeah, I may have a rough idea because I may have a 200 megabits per second one from one ISP and a gigabits per second. I can configure those. But you may want to make it even more interesting. You say, okay, I have a preferred WAN for all real-time traffic, like all teams, any type. I mean, we can detect that. Like I say, UDP, real-time traffic, then we can route it to your preferred WAN. You say, okay, all real-time traffic going to WAN 2, right? Or you can even make it more interesting. You can select certain things. Like I can select, for example, your guest Wi-Fi subnet. I know based on what type of business you are, you might want to give very high bandwidth to guest user, or you want to just limit them so that nobody is abusing the total bandwidth that you are getting from the ISP, right? You can always put them on a WAN 2 or a secondary like WAN so that that traffic is not affecting. So you can see like there's a lot of controls you can do to improve the user experience and robustness for the customers. Yeah, there are a number of other things. Maybe we can look at the intrusion detection because we will not have time for everything, but you can review it offline. So again, the same thing. A cyber gateway has a IDS engine as well, so it will all the traffic, if this is the multi-interface gateway, it is the default gateway, have to go through the cyber gateway, and it's going to do intrusion detection and so on. Like and with everything else, you can read through how you enable that and where I think you have to go to these XDR dashboards. You can search in the threat hunting. That's where your IDS data will be coming in, and then you can filter that data for the IDS, and you can see and it will tell you if there are alerts. I mean, right now there's nothing serious, but if there's a level 12 alert or above, you need to pay attention. That means there's some intrusion or something suspicious in your network. So that is how you enable IDS. So it is very simple. I just say yes over here, and then that's all. So for today, I'm not going to go through everything. So let me see if I can save it or something is missing. Okay. Since I did not do all the entries and so on, it will not let me save. But let's continue without that because I have already had a gateway over here. We can look at that. Other thing is your IoT and OT security, those type of things. So before I go there, right now I'm connected through one of the gateways, and we can look at that. So let's see, I can go to internal devices. I should be able to select. So this is going to bring in the internal devices, and this is where you will get all the visibility. And it's pulling in real time. That's why it's taking a little bit time. But I think I just earlier might have done that. Let me just check where it is. So once it comes up, we will be able to see it. Like you will see, I can show you on my device. You can see all the devices on the 20th. We will look at those. Yeah, I had more devices, but right now I think my phone is not connected. This is my laptop machine. Like you can see F289, the Mac is just detecting as a Intel thing. And if I do ipconfig all, you can see this is my .9 is the IP and F289 my MAC address and so on. So one thing is Cyber Gateway protects everything, all the traffic. It knows that from this machine, everything, this Teams call, everything is going through this gateway, and we can go back and check even in the dashboards, all the activity. Just like from the remote users, we saw in the SASE admin codes, a lot of visibility and so on, you will see the same dashboards. Here you see in this workspace, I had my machine connected, but since it's my Windows machine, but it's going through the gateway, all that traffic is shown as a gateway, and from my Android device a little bit. Same thing, I can put in all the policies and blocked sites. Everything is now, I can even filter it. I say, okay, I'm only interested in what is happening through this gateway. I filtered everything, and I can go to the detailed events, um, similar type of visibility, over here. So let's trying to find this is a .9 is my laptop. You can see maybe some uh, website that my machine is accessing. I mean, one of the things you will realize, I mean, on a lot of things are going on in the background. I don't know why when it's doing this thing, it just, but everything is logged for auditing, and so on. So let's go back to the sites again. I think last time you saw same on the global cyber mesh. You can see since I'm in Dallas, my gateway should be showing up somewhere. It should be one of the gateway over here. Yeah. Yeah, this is my gateway. So visually you can see where that gateway is and other devices and so on. And one of the things we also brought in site performance, there might not be much data over here. When you have multiple sites, what is happening, the throughput between sites, latency, because this is all about now performance, because it's not only security, but the SD-WAN and networking. You will be able to see the packet loss or anything, your SD-WAN experiencing between sites, any type of things. There's a whole dashboards which are now focused on the site's performance. And if we go back there, so some of the other things are the vulnerability scan. You can also activate that. some of you who have deployed these cyber gateways, you might have seen some automated scan reports coming to you, right? Because the mesh through the gateways can do the vulnerability scans, but you can go over here and do it at your own as well. And some of the other things here. Now let me go back. There were a few other topics. Yeah, we can also see you can do a full packet capture also, like that's also supported. There's a UI. If something you want to troubleshoot, like if you can just do a dump, like from the console, you can select, give me a 30-second dump. And with the graphs and everything, it will nicely show what is happening, where traffic is originating, where it is going, and so on. And similarly, Cyber Gateway has another functionality is like because it can also act as a yeah, it might be opening somewhere. Yeah, I can search. You can forward all the Syslog and NetFlow to it as well. Like so, so there's a configuration you can do that. Like it's because it also you don't need like a separate SIEM sensor because you can just configure it. Okay, you're from your switches and other firewalls. If you have routers, you want to monitor those. You can also forward those logs. And if you want not only sys, but you want to do NetFlow and other things like some of these things, you can also forward those through the cyber gateway. You can see same way you can forward the NetFlow data and all that. So with this one, I think we can close this session.